Everyone, this is me when you come Swala, 14-year-old student from Mardan, currently studying at Rehan School Online Academy in level 1, batch 4. So now today I'm going to share the next review, the part 2 of the Latham's disconnect principle TEDx. So in this next 10 minutes of Latham's TEDx talk, she continues explaining her disconnect principle and shows how it can make difficult conversation much easier. The main idea is very simple. When something does not happen the way we expected, instead of blaming someone, we should say, I think we have a disconnect. This phrase recognizes that something is wrong without immediately blaming or judging anyone. After that, we can ask questions like, where are we and what do we need to do next? These questions focus on the situation and the solution rather than attacking the person, and explains that the goal is to fix the disconnect, not fix the person. When we use this approach, we treat people with respect and invite them to work with us to solve the problems. She also explains that the disconnect principle can be used between anyone, not just a boss and an employee. For example, an employee can tell their manager that they are struggling to meet a deadline because they have been given another task. Instead of blaming the manager, they can explain the disconnect and ask about the priorities and what they should do next. And also gives an example involving parents and children. Instead of constantly complaining about a messy room, or a parent could say, I think we have a disconnect, and explain that we have different ideas about keeping the room clean. This creates an opportunity for the child to share their opinion and help find a solution. Another important part of the talk is that the principal can also help us admit our own mistakes. If we make a serious mistake, instead of hiding it or making excuses, we can simply acknowledge that there is a major disconnect and work with others to decide what needs to happen next. And then return to the story of Max. She explains that if Max and his employee had understood the disconnect principle, the employee might never have become a difficult employee. They could have addressed their problems as they happened. However, sometimes a disconnect can be bigger if an employee and an organization cannot make their expectation and capabilities work together. They may need to spread even then, and says that there should be no blame, shame, or feeling of failure. The goal still solves the disconnect. One of the strongest message is this section is that when something goes wrong, we should not immediately decide that someone is the problem. We should first recognize the disconnect and then work together to understand and solve it. At the end of the talk, and asks the audience to practice the phrase, I think we have a disconnect. She encourages everyone to use the simple idea in their everyday lives. My learning from this TED talk is that I really like this part of an Latham talk because disconnect principle is so easy to understand and practical. It teaches us to focus on problem instead of people. For me, the biggest lesson is that when something goes wrong, blaming someone usually does not solve the problem. A better approach is to stay calm, understand what happened, and ask what we can do next. I also like the end applies the ideas to different situations such as workplaces, parents and children, and even our own mistakes. This make the principle useful in everyday life. Overall, part two taught me that a difficult conversation does not always have to become an argument. If we remove blame and focus on solving the disconnect, we can communicate better, solve problems faster, and build stronger relationship. My biggest takeaway is fix the disconnect, not the person. So this was my today's TED Talk review. Hope you all will like it. And we will meet again in another TED Talk review. Take care and bye bye.